Welcome, this is Sandman, and I'm talking about Grid 2 today. And as you can see, Grid 2 is a pretty good looking game, and it's a somewhat typical racing game. It's a little bit different in some ways. This is a recording, or a replay, or whatever, but the game's easily playable with mouse and keyboard. It would help the wheel of some sort, some kind of a setup. It would obviously be a little bit smoother, but it's a game where you can drift a little bit. It's fairly easy to drive, even though mouse and keyboard's not quite ideal. But it is a good-looking game with a lot of details that make it kind of nice. There's some atmospheric effects, some lighting effects that are pretty nice. This is a replay as well, but some of this is similar in in-game footage. It does not have this cabin view. I thought that it did because Grid 1 was TrackIR compatible, but as you can see here, I'm in the cab view. That's not by default, but I downloaded a mod. I think it's the Bates mod, which gives you some good in-cockpit views. As you can see, it looks real good there. Another thing I like about the game is the wrecks can be kind of funny, and car interaction with other cars is kind of interesting at sometimes, at points. I'm going to try to pop this guy's tires with my bumper, but it didn't work. Then here, I shoved that guy off the cliff. So there's some good things that I like about it. I like the details, the planes flying around, the birds flying around. I love doing the donuts because it's easy to do the donuts in the game, and the smoke looks pretty decent for a video game, so I do a lot of donuts. And some of the individual car wrecks are cool. Your car can flip over. I was glad to see that signs could be knocked over. The surf down below looks a little stupid, but the rest of the environments look pretty good. And here we're going to do some more donuts, and we're going to wreck into some more cars, just because I like doing that. Gets a little goofy on the physics sometimes, but and more donuts. So there's a lot to like about the game. There's just a little bit that I don't like about it. Here's some more good-looking clips. It's not impossible to drive off the pavement, and it's fairly easy to drift around the corners and things like that. There's a section in here, right there, where you see the glowing brakes, and they get hot and they glow. And then there's times when the suspension in the cars, at least in the back of the car, looks pretty realistic. There's a lot of movement going on that's very realistic. So they did a good job. A lot of little details to make this game a nice racing game. Now there were some things I don't like right here. You can see that it doesn't take long running off the track before you reset, and then right here there's some motion blur in some of the replays, and I don't like motion blur. Yeah, I think they need to leave motion blur out of games. I don't like it. It's kind of ridiculous. Here's the sun glare looks pretty good. I'm sort of neutral on sun glare, but it does look good. And then with this mod, with the TrackIR compatible stuff, there's the backup or the flashback version, and you can see it gets really rough whenever you get to the front of your flashback with the head tracking. Also with the head tracking, it doesn't really give you any advantage. You can move your head around, it's kind of nice, but even with the mod there are no mirrors. I believe Grid 1 had mirrors. You could actually check your mirrors, you could check your instruments, so you can do away with the HUD. I think. I've never played Grid 1, but I believe that that's the case. In Grid 2, with the mod, you can't do that. So there's really no point in using the in-cockpit view or the in-the-driver's seat view. It doesn't add a lot to the game, and honestly, it was easier to drive without being in the driver's seat. That's true of most racing games. You get more situational awareness. And you see which way your car is going and how it's behaving a little bit better. when you're externally viewed. Or donuts. So it doesn't add a lot to the game. Again, if you had a steering wheel and some pedals and a gear shifter, maybe it would be pretty interesting to have the head tracking. So if you have all that set up, it might be worth getting the mod. Now this is just some really funny driving that we did, or that my son did, and it was just really funny to watch. So the rest of this video is just some funny wrecks and interesting things that I didn't really think were possible, and certainly our driver would not be walking anymore. He'd be planted 6 feet underground. But the rest of this video, that's all it is. So enjoy, and thanks for watching. One thing that I forgot to mention about the game that I don't like is the fact that there's really not what I would consider to be a good career mode. Basically, you just unlock cars. As far as I got in the game, I've only played a little bit of it, but as far as I got in the game, there was no bank, there was no money, there was no buying of new cars and souping the cars up. You just kind of unlocked cars based on how well, at what point in the game you were, and I guess how many YouTube viewers you had or something like that. And then, as far as I could tell, you didn't really soup the cars up. So